Oh, it's 10 o'clock and we're just starting to record now.
The 10 o'clock
PM.
So you know what that means. It's going to be a bad one, boys. Buckle up.
Looney Tunes back in action. Back in action again.
Hello, it's Huggy Goose Head, boys, and welcome to Al Pacino Prissy, where today we have, as Chris mentioned it, not a bad movie. For the first time in a long time. Do. That's a song reference. Chris, you can continue.
You wouldn't understand.
Actually, this is the podcast. You know, this is the podcast where we look at movies that objectively have no meaning, and we think about it. So we broke our rule.
Your inbox is empty?
Yeah.
You delete everything after you read it?
If I don't need it anymore, I get rid of it.
Huh.
Yeah, crazy. That's wild.
Well, I mean, if it's a physical thing, I understand. But
Yeah.
I like to have the emails back because I can refer to it. I mean, if it's junk, then I delete it. Like the COVID, are you good?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, I got rid of Chris's
our university is like, oh man, we need to have COVID checks so that people don't go to school sick.
Yeah.
And so they send out an email every single day, and they're like, you feel good? Answer yes or no. And then if you answer yes, they're like, okay, you're good.
Anyway.
Like, yeah, I do that when I get out of bed.
Yeah, I get rid of emails because I don't like how it looks. If I don't need them. So.
Yeah.
We broke our rule. We watched a movie that objectively does have a meaning. And Nate, Nathaniel Henson Hill, my roommate, he also recommended Starship Troopers, which made sense. But today we're doing Book of Eli. And his email says, subject movie suggestion, The Book of Eli with Denzel Washington. A movie about a man who carries a valuable package through a post-apocalyptic wasteland. And this is not a good choice for our podcast.
Yeah, unfortunately.
So Nate, we're gonna have to consult next time you recommend something.
So stout and sauerkraut.
Yeah, all right, stout and sauerkraut.
But
But yeah, this we'll get into this a little bit more. But yeah, that's the movie for today. So we're gonna look at this movie that does objectively have meaning, and we're gonna objectively think about it. Chris, what were you saying?
I forgot.
I'm sorry.
It's okay.
But yeah, I will say I actually did not like this movie that much.
I felt
That's
like one of us would not like it. I didn't know who.
It's fine.
I knew
but
it would be me, though.
I don't know. I don't like how it looked.
Like the filter that they put over it?
Yeah.
Really?
I know that, it bothered me at first, specifically,
Are we
Thank
not
you.
introducing that?
Introducing what?
Okay, well, thank you for the
No.
gift. I remember
I wish I had
what I was
some
going to
liquid.
say. I remember what I was going to say. Well, yeah, guys, I'm sorry I didn't get you guys any Christmas presents like a month ago, but these are Christmas themed cider boys, so here you go, guys. Drink
Cheers.
up. And I actually want some of Jake's, so pour that in here, please. We shared one last episode, remember?
We did do that.
Yeah, so go.
You hear that, baby?
Alright, that's enough.
But yeah.
At first, I
don't
wasn't
know.
a fan of the way that they filmed, where everything was stark shadows.
Yeah.
But then it kind of it fits into the world because they have to wear shades when they go out in the sun. And after that, I was like, well, I can appreciate it for what they were trying to do, but I understand not liking the visual look of the film. I understand that.
Yeah. I mean, other than that, it was fine. I think it was too on the nose with its theme as well.
Mm-hmm.
Well,
There was a point, and Chris, you'll say this, but he said something when he was looking down while the people were getting beat up and stuff when he was on the overpass, and I was like, he said something, and I was like, oh, this movie is about staying on the right path, and then immediately afterwards he goes, stay on a path, stay on a path, and I was like, oh, okay. So,
well, we can get into all that later. But I would like to point out that this is technically a Christian movie, and we
there ain't no technically about it.
And we opened up the podcast by breaking bread.
Oh shit!
Yeah, we did Passover.
Yeah.
Or, excuse me, communion.
And now
This
you guys,
this is Jake's body, and this is Chris's blood.
Literally, because we're Catholic.
yeah,
I drained him of his blood.
Yeah, I am Catholic.
me
You're
and
Jewish.
Jake, Dragon Ball Z fuse into Jesus. All right.
I'm not Catholic.
Sorry, Mom. Recap?
Yeah,
Recap?
Let's get into it, baby.
All right. Book of Eli opens up with with the forest, and it's very bleak and abandoned. And there's obviously some kind of fallout that has happened, and a cat's trotting along, minding its own cat business,
There's
and then
a dead
shoom, and an arrow flies into the cat and takes its life. And the arrow belonged to Denzel Washington, who plays Eli Roth. Not really, it's just Eli. He takes the cat and he cooks the cat in an abandoned place because he's surviving. And this is showing you that, you know, it's apocalyptic because he's eating a cat. And he feeds the cat to a rat, which is very ironic and funny. And
But it shows his character.
Yeah, and it shows his character. And he also likes music. He has an old iPod, the block iPod with Beats by Dre, which they take a lot of effort into, like, showing the brand. There's a scene at the end where a character is, like, wearing them, and she turns her head for a solid 2 seconds solely so that it can
she goes
to the camera.
Did you get that?
Yeah.
She goes,
Well, she goes, man, these Beats by Dre sound fantastic.
she goes.
This movie came out in 2010, so...
Yeah.
That's when Beats by Dre were a thing.
Yeah, I know.
Not anymore, though.
Yeah.
That's when the apocalypse happened.
Yeah.
2010.
Yeah.
Well,
So anyway, he's listening to some musics, and he falls asleep, and he wakes up, and his music is dead because the battery is dead, and he's like, ah. And, you know, he rummages around, he's walking around in the street, and there's this lady who her cart is broken down. It's a shopping cart. Night.
Keep going.
keep going, Chris.
going.
No. Well,
Okay,
the thing
okay.
is, I don't like my recap being interrupted. I don't like talking over you guys.
I wasn't going
So
to
you can
talk
go
under
ahead
you.
and
No.
say whatever you were going to say.
Yeah,
Please.
okay,
I
good.
insist.
Good.
I'll stop. Talk about my wife, please.
Moving on. Moving on. Moving on.
Are you done?
Why would you say that?
All right, done? What time are we at?
4270.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
All right. Are we done?
No, you mean in the movie 15 minutes.
Are we
Yeah.
done
With what?
with this?
Sour
We're done.
sauerkraut.
Okay.
That's twice. Alright, go continue.
So there's a lady who she's all like, help, and Eli's like, oh, what seems to be the problem? And she's like, this is the problem, and a bunch of dudes jump out, and you know, it's an ambush. She wasn't really in trouble, and but now Eli's in trouble. And then dudes, you know, also everybody's wearing sunglasses. Everybody wears sunglasses when they're outside.
Because it's pitch black.
Yeah, well, color grading is very, like, gray.
The movie.
And there's,
With
like,
Vin-
a
with-
green tinge to the clouds.
Vin Diesel, or is it Bruce
So
Willis?
it's never...
Vin Diesel.
Vin Diesel, yeah.
It's never, like, blatantly told, but, you know, it was, like, nuclear fallout and everything. So, dude's coming up to him, and he was like, give me your bag, or I'll
Like, what
fucking
up?
kill
I'm
you.
gonna do a
And
job.
then Eli is like, put your hand on me again, and you're gonna lose that hand. He's like, what? And dude looks away. He doesn't even notice. Eli just very quickly takes out a machete, shoop, cuts his hand off. He doesn't even notice it.
He pulls an Obi-Wan.
Yeah. And he
goes,
yeah.
and then disappears.
And he's in such shock that he
He's
tells
Frankie
his
Trombone.
henchmen to kiss him.
He goes, kiss him!
Yeah. But then Eli's like, he's in shock. I think he meant killed him. And then he just slowly, like, backs up into the darkness, and he has this badass silhouette fight scene where he kills all of them.
Because it's pitch black.
Yeah, and he spares the lady. And
That's
then
perfect.
he keeps on walking.
too.
And,
The Witcher.
And the lady says, "Where are you going?" And then he says, "West." And so he
Miners in
keeps
1849
on trucking. And then as he's trucking, there's a bunch of these truckers, but they're not actually truckers; they're bikers, and they come across a man and a lady, and they shoot the man and try to rape the lady, and then Eli is he could intervene, but then he has to tell himself. He keeps repeating to himself, "It's not your concern. Stay on the right path.
Stay on the right path."
Yeah. So he clearly has a greater goal. That means that he cannot, risk his life if he doesn't have to. And so he makes his way into this little settlement. It's decent. It's decent for an apocalyptic settlement. And he goes to this merchant. And they barter and all, and then he gives him his iPod, and he takes his iPod to charge up batteries. So they have generators, they have electricity. They're doing pretty well for the apocalypse. They have pretty much everything you think they might need, maybe
including hoe ass bitches.
But now we get to see a little bit of the governor of
Sirius
this
Black
town,
is in this movie.
Who
is
Harry. Who seems to be about as old as Eli himself.
He seems to be as old as Gary.
Yeah. Who seems to be
That
was pretty good.
Okay.
Because he's Gary Oldman.
Yeah. Yeah, I get that.
And he also plays Sirius Black.
Oh, okay, I didn't know that.
Yeah.
All right. Well, Gary Oldman is an old man, and he is the governor of this place. And it's worth noting that he is about as old as Eli, and about everybody else who works under him is 20 or 30. They know nothing of the world beforehand, and later it's told that it's 30 years since right now it's 30 years since the apocalypse happened, and so he and Eli and Old Man's lieutenant are the only three people in this place who are actually literate. And he sends his men out to find books. Specifically one book, but they bring back a bunch of books and shampoo and things like that, which are considered, treats. I could have used a better word, but that's the word the old man uses.
Delicacies? Or...
Yeah, delicacy. Well, he says treat when he gets the shampoo. And so, Eli goes to the bar so that he can get himself some water, and then he has to touch a cat because for reasons I can't reveal now, and he touches the cat, and then one of the dudes who killed the guy and raped the lady earlier shows up and says, "Hey, you touched my cat," and then he's like, "I'm sorry, it won't happen again," and then he's like, "You want to fucking fight?" And he's like, "No," and then they fight, and he kills them, and then he proceeds to decapitate the heads off of almost every bandit in that bar. And then the governor comes out, and Old Man comes out and sees him, and he's like, "Hey, I can use a guy like you on my side, and you seem smart and literate and my age, so I could use you as a lieutenant." And he's like, "Nah," and he was like, "Well, how about stay the night and fuck my stepdaughter?"
Stop kicking the table.
Okay, am I kicking the table?
Somebody is.
Okay.
Yeah.
That was a big gulp.
He's scared of me.
Speaking of big gulps, he has to stay the night with Mila Kunis, who is Gary Oldman's, who is Gary Oldman's
hoe ass bitch,
who is Gary Oldman's
hoe ass bitch,
stepdaughter, essentially.
Who is
Claudia,
a hoe ass bitch.
Okay, fuck you. Claudia.
Well, no.
Claudia is also Claudia is very much blind,
and also a bitch ass hoe.
Oh,
crazy, right?
How the turntables.
Tweet us at Al Pacino podcast. We'll leave a comment right here on this time set and tell me how many times you laughed at that joke every time he repeated it. All right, so
ass bitch.
That would be funny.
Anyway, so yeah, old man is like, well, how about you stay the night with my stepdaughter and think it over? And he's like, well, okay. And so they give him a room, they give him a bunch of food, and he interacts with Claudia, who is the blind lady, and she likes him, and he's like, haha. And so she walks off, and then he's reading his book that he carries around with him all the time, and
he asks her how long she's been blind.
Yeah,
she says since birth. So. And
he also asks, did you lose your sight during the war, or was it the Flash?
Right.
And
she said it was at birth, yeah.
Yeah. And, which is not established exactly how he lost.
What?
Cut that out. All right.
No.
So anyway, Claudia leaves, and then Solara, who is her daughter, old man's stepdaughter, comes in, Mila Kunis, and she's like, hey...
Shut up, Meg.
I'm here to give you a good time, and he he very much like tries to hide the book.
He very much tells her to shut up, Meg.
And then he's like, no, I don't want none of that.
Sweet.
You can leave. And then she's like, no, can I please at least just stay?
Peter.
Can I please at least?
Oh, Peter.
She's like,
no,
no,
ass bitch.
I swear to fucking God, I will walk. All right. All right. So she's like, please, I'll sleep on the floor. You just gotta let me stay here and make it seem like that I gave you a good time, because otherwise my father will hurt my mother. My old man will hurt my mother.
Guess what? Just keep going.
No. Let me stay here, otherwise old man will hurt my mother. And then he's like, all right. And so, they have to stay the night. And then he gives her the food, and they eat the food together. And then right before they eat the food, right before they eat the food, he does this thing to where they essentially do grace.
A seance.
And she kind of learns from that. And she also sees that he has this book, and she's very intrigued by it, but he puts it away. And so she's like, the grace thing and the book thing, is that connected? I don't know, but it makes me feel good. And so morning comes, and Solara goes back to her place, and Eli books the fuck out of there because he's like, maybe I done fucked up, because I think that
You said he books the fuck out there.
Yeah, he books the fuck out there because he knows the old man is after his book, based off of context clues and shit. And so, he gets his iPod and his Beats by Dre, and he just makes it the fuck out of there. And all this time, Solara is having breakfast with her mother, and she does the grace thing, and old man overhears that, and then he's like, Where'd you hear that? And then she's like, oh, well, the Eli guy told me. And he's like, was that out of his book? He has a book, right? And then she's like, no, he doesn't. And he's like, show me the book. And then she goes, eh. And then he's like, oh. And so he and his men run out, and they block off Eli from leaving the place. And then he's like, he doesn't want to fight. He's like, hey, I know what that book is. You know what that book is. Stay here and help me give people faith. And Eli is like, no, because they're not going to give them faith. You're going to use it and essentially start a cult, and then start cults in other places and be bad guy. So no, I'm going west with the Bible because it's a Bible. It's a Bible. And so so he's like, I love this guy. Kill him, please. That's
because he's a hoe ass bitch.
And so his lieutenant takes a shot at Eli, and Eli is not scathed at all, and he pauses, and he's like, and he keeps walking, and then there's a dude on the roof who shoots at him as well, and then he stops, and he's not scathed, but he's listening to where the bullet's coming from, and so another guy pulls out his gun, and then Eli pulls out his gun and fucking kills the dude on the roof, kills the dude over there, just kills everybody, and then he just fucking leaves. like a badass. And then, he also shoots Old Man in the leg, and so that's why they kind of have to retreat. And so Old Man's wounded. Eli's pursuing on with his quest to go west with the book, and
Quest to go west
with the book, and Solara
that's gotta show up in the rap.
kind of escapes the place, and she catches up with him, and then she's like, "Hey, take me with you. I don't want to be in this place." And he's like, "No, you need to go back." What? I'm trying to eat, but I'm also trying to get the
I know. No, you just keep going.
We have a bread cam ready.
But anyway,
Bread cam.
Bread cam.
she's like, "Okay, well, I can show you where the town's water supply is because you look thirsty, and so if I do that, can I stay with you?" And he's like, "Yeah, fine." So she takes him to a watering hole, and while he's there, he reveals to her that this is a book that people have fought after, during the war. It kind of tells her a little bit about how life was, before, and kind of stresses the importance of taking this book to the West. And so, as he leaves the watering hole place, he locks her in there, and he's like, "I'm sorry, I still gotta go alone, but thanks for the water." And then she's like, "Hey," and he's like, "What?" And she says, "Fuck you." And then he's like, "Oh, this is a Christian movie, bitch." And so he leaves.
Because she's a hoe-ass bitch.
Yeah, she leaves, and what? Wrap it up.
No, I'm saying let's speed this up.
Well, the idea.
Oh, I'm trying to speed it up.
The idea was to be subtle so that we didn't point it out. We were trying to avoid a hole in the wall moment, and it happened anyway. So
What?
yeah.
So yeah, they meet back up again because Solara breaks out, and then she almost gets raped by these guys, but then Eli saves her, and then he's like, "Okay, you can stay with me." But then in that, during that moment, Old Man and his crew kind of catches up to them, and so they have to escape. And then they go into this. I'm kind of getting it mixed up, but they go in. They take shelter in this house. With these two old people.
Nuclear shelter, they were inside the nuclear cooling tube. The night before that. Right.
Okay, you may actually have to help me here.
Okay. It's not. She gets out of the place that he locks her up in. It doesn't really show how, but that she probably was just let out. She catches up with him, and then. She's about to get raped by the same woman that he ran into earlier, when the whole hooligan people come around.
Yeah.
But he saves her from that, and then she's basically like, "Yeah, now I'm definitely coming along with you," that kind of thing. They seek shelter in the cooling tube of an old nuclear plant, and then she asks more about the book, and he talks a little bit about it. She finds out that his name is Eli because it's in his book bag.
Because he shoots the guy in the wee-wee.
Yeah, he does do that. And so they wake up in the morning and they go to the house, and that's where you're at.
To the house with the old people who seem all right until they look in the backyard and notice that there's a graveyard, people that they've eaten, they're cannibals. And so he's like, "No, we gotta leave. But then as they're about to leave, Old Man and his dude show up with an army. And they're like, "Okay, last chance to give me the book." And he's like, "Nope." And they're like, "Fire." And so they have a shootout. The two old people die. And they bring out a Gatling gun. And so Eli and Solara have to come out. They've basically been defeated. And then they get the book from Eli. And then Old Man shoots Eli in the kidney or something in the side. And he's left for dead, and they take Solara. But then as they're going back with Solara, she kills the driver and the dude who was told to, and she kills the driver and Old Man's lieutenant, and then blows up the other truck with the gun. And there's only one truck left, and it just has Old Man and one of his henchmen, but he has the book, and they're like, well, yeah, fucker, we barely have enough gas to get back to the place, so go back to the place. Old Man's like, I want anyway, right? And so, Solara takes a car, goes and picks up Eli, and then they drive west, and they they end up in San Francisco, and Eli's like, we gotta go there, and then she looks at where he points, and it's Alcatraz, and so they take a little rowboat to Alcatraz, and they get there, and this is all intercut with Old Man finding out that the book that he stole, that he got from Eli, the Bible, is actually in Braille. He can't read it. Guess what? Eli was blind the whole time.
Well, one eye.
Yeah. And,
I've got my eye on you, kid.
It all connects to Fat
Yeah.
Man.
Eli
It's
was
the same
blind the
universe.
whole time, and then Eli meets up with Alcatraz guys, and they have like their own. They have their new their own press working, and they've been like collecting books, and they're going to reteach the new world. And they've never had a Bible come in before, and he's like, "Do you have it?" And he was like, "Yes, I have one in my possession." And he was like, "It is a really cool line. Like, may I ask what kind of condition it's in?" And he's like, "It's beat up." And I'm like, "Oh man, it's badass." And so anyway, he by memory recites the entirety of the Bible, and they type it up, and they make their own copy, and they slide in a Holy Bible Alcatraz press, and Old Man is defeated because he tries to get his blind wife to read it, but then she fakes that, you know, she doesn't know how to read Braille anymore, and she also points out the wound on his leg. She's like, I can smell it. It's rotting. It's like you have failed. And all of his men are essentially just, you know, killing each other now, and his society is crumbling. And
all in the pursuit of religion.
yes, and religion prevailed. But Eli dies. But Solara takes a copy of the book, and she goes back to her place. And she's going to save them.
In the Book of Eli 2.
And the Book
In
of
the sequel,
Solara.
coming out this year.
In the Book of Solara.
The Book of Solara.
There you go.
Yeah,
the Book
there
of...
you go.
The Book of Salazar Slytherin.
Alright.
Yeah.
The end.
Woo! Woo!
Okay.
Sorry.
So this book is also the Spider-Man Chronicles, but for big boys.
I've never seen
That's
it.
funny. Yeah.
Have you not?
No.
Oh my god.
I
Well,
haven't seen that.
the point
pretty much since it came
is
out.
that it also revolves around the book. And also revolves around the bad guy trying to get a book.
Yeah.
Here's the problem, though. This is why this movie's not good. Because in Spider-Man Chronicles, one of the best lines is from the Ogre Man. And he goes, "The book!"
That peaked.
And there was not a line in this film where he went, "The book!"
Well, you know what? That is a point.
And it's not a good movie because of that.
Yeah.
I'm sorry, Nate.
Have
Have you ever seen Spider-Man Chronicles?
Good question,
It's
bad
so good.
answer.
My parents bought me the book one time to get me to read, and I was like, no.
I don't want to read.
Chris said, I can't.
He's like the
I
people
literally-
in the
It
book
didn't
of Eli.
interest me. I liked Goosebumps though.
And look at you
And
now.
look at you now, yeah. You would. No, I was always
Goosebumps
afraid
scared
of
me.
that one episode of Goosebumps where the mask got stuck on the girl. That, like, the...
I vaguely remember.
No, it was absolutely terrifying. And it was specifically because of her, like, ghoulish, like, laugh or whatever when she had the mask on. And the idea that it was stuck on you. Because I remember there was a PE class where we watched that, which really shows that I lived in America.
What?
And, yeah.
Yeah, no, we would always watch
Yeah.
it at school. Yeah.
Yeah, and it was during PE, and I remember I was like, yeah, I can't watch this, I'm scared. I was like in like 4th grade, maybe 3rd grade.
Maybe they showed it to you so that you'd run away from the TV.
Yeah. Well, no, I just went into a room directly outside of it and sat down, and I don't even remember what I did, but it was me and like one other girl who I think had like a religious reason for not watching it. I the same one that forbid you from watching Harry
Harry
Potter.
Potter.
Right.
Whatever that may be. But,
No, I was also too scared. And I
Yeah.
probably still am.
I fucking loved Goosebumps.
Well, it's funny, during quarantine, my cousin and I actually watched it because I mentioned that I was scared of it, and she was like, you just gotta like watch it
Not be
again
scared.
as you're an adult. And I was like, I can't do it. And I watched the entire thing, and I was like it was so odd. It was like literally like I had to move myself away from the TV, and I watched and I got through it, and I realized I'm okay. Like, that's fine. Yeah, it's weird, man. Like,
this children's show doesn't scare me anymore.
Yeah.
And you know why that's
Who would've
relevant?
thought?
Because Goosebumps is a book.
Yeah.
Was this marketed as a Christian film?
No.
Or a religious film? I'll say that.
I don't remember. It was 2010.
Before I saw it, I thought it was a war movie.
Interesting. Because I always, and this just may be, my prowess in the Christian documentation. But when I saw Book of Eli, like the title, I was like, oh, like the Bible.
He said, you know how well known,
Well, he got it.
how familiar I am with the Bible. That title, like the Bible.
Well, I just meant like when people refer to books
Yeah.
in the Bible, if they're like Kyle and they're like, I've read the Bible, or parts of it at least. They
I read
go
the entirety of it. Including a lot of the non-canonical texts and the Apocrypha, which is like in the Catholic Bible.
Point proven. They'll say like, oh, the Book of Job, or the Book of Genesis,
Or if you're from the South, the Book of Job.
the Book of Leviticus,
Or if you're my dad, the book
Leviticus.
of Get a Goddamn Job. Right? That's funny.
Yeah,
That's blasphemy.
No, it's okay.
that's blasting you.
You don't even know what blasphemy is. That's right. Tell me, what's blasphemy?
Me
Yeah. What is to blaspheme the Holy Spirit? Huh? No, you're wrong. All
saying
right.
the word goddamn.
No, that's actually not it.
Well, and look at you now.
I was told that it was like if you say that you're saved but you're not. And
No.
and I. Okay.
Well,
It-
blasphemy is like
It's attributing to God
blasphemy
that
is
which is
like
that which could be attributed to Satan.
blasphemy.
So
blasphemy
old
is.
man's entire motive.
Yeah,
So I was right then.
kind of.
Goddamn.
What's this movie about?
Well, here's the thing. So, the most obvious thing is about like the religious faith and succeeding, much like Job, having faith regardless of your circumstance. But I want to take it a little different, and I want to talk about the dangers of religion.
Real quick, I want to say, if you Google blasphemy, the dictionary definition is essentially profanity.
Yeah, and that's incorrect.
Yeah.
Because that's not
It does attribute
tell-
it to religion, but it essentially boils down to profanity.
Yeah, well, and what dictionary is that from?
It just says dictionary. I mean, it's the
Oxford
first thing that
Languages.
Yeah,
pops
that's
up.
isn't
Yeah.
that the? Or no, I'm thinking of Merriam-Webster. But either way,
Merriam.
that's not how it's understood in the actual religious sense.
So,
in the
I
religious
want
sense,
everybody
when you're
to
referring
understand-
to blasphemy.
Ready? Watch this.
Mhm.
I want everybody to understand that right now, Kyle is saying the dictionary is wrong.
Yeah, I'm allowed to say that. You know
Yeah.
why? Because the dictionary changes its definitions. You know, they changed the
but
definition
you're
of
not
racism
supposed
last
to-
year.
We've had
But
that
you're not-
conversation, but I really don't want to have it on.
But you're
on
not
air.
supposed to question authority.
And that's what this movie's about.
See how I did that?
Mhm.
I set that
Look
one
at
up.
that.
I set that one up.
Yeah.
That's pretty good, huh?
I think this movie's about power and purpose. To put it into two words.
The double P's.
Yeah, the PP.
I mean,
So
I think
the-
in a way it is about like interpretation and definition and how it can be used in either a good way or a corrupt way.
Like the Catholic Church or the Protestant Church.
Yeah.
Ow!
Not to say one is more right than the other.
Right.
Which-
Because
Right.
they're both wrong. But
Well, Old Man is the
Well-
only character who is actually his goal is to use the book, like is to actually teach the book to other people.
yeah.
Eli's goal is solely just to get that word out to other people so that they can read it for themselves.
Oh, dude. So it is just a massive like reinterpretation of Luther versus the Catholic Church.
Because exactly what
I suppose
Eli's like beliefs is. I mean, obviously he believes in God, but like exactly like how he believes that and everything. That's not known. You know?
No, it's not at all.
No, yeah, the specifics of anything, yeah, that's definitely true. I mean, you can assume since he memorized the entire Bible that he at least believes that the entirety of it is true, you know. Yeah. And so, but even then, you get into the question of how does that apply to everyday life, you know, or specifically his everyday.
Well, I
life.
know for a fact he says when he's about to die, he's like. He says something along the lines of like, I did the good work or whatever, and is like, please forgive me for the bad things I've done. Mm-hmm. Also,
yeah, because you know he's had to because like when you're, and this is in the Bible a lot of times is like you know you read it and you realize that hey the people that are claiming to be on the side of God, especially by our standards, have done some pretty bad things.
Yeah.
Like, think of the story of Joshua. It was essentially he went into the land of Canaan and killed every single Canaanite. Now, in reality, he didn't actually kill every single Canaanite, and it wasn't a genocide because specifically it took place over the course of an entire generation. Which
time
is
relative, but yes.
But yeah, he didn't kill every single Canaanite either. It was just the armies that they took over. But
numbers
either way,
are also
it's like,
relative.
Like the Book of Numbers, but it's but it is interesting because he does kill people and he does state some remorse for it, but because he has this purpose that's higher than that.
Well,
not to say that it necessarily justifies it, but that it does to him specifically.
I like how he I mean, it coincides with the title of the film, The Book of Eli. It's like Denzel Washington's character is portrayed as a, protagonist of the Bible, where like he's more of an agent for God. He's a holy man, but he is still a man. He's not like Jesus. He is not without sin.
Yeah.
Well, and that's why when I read the title, I was like, oh, the Bible.
Well, I would also say the protagonist of the Bible is God, not any person in it. But I understand what you're saying.
Yeah, well, I mean, like Samson and
right.
And Job, is about Job, not God.
Yeah. Okay. Tell me what happens in 30 plus of the chapters in Job, because you only know the first two.
He talks to the other people about what happened to him.
Mm-hmm. How do they respond?
I don't remember.
Mm-hmm. Fake fan.
You're
a fake fan of God.
Hey, I never claimed to be a fan of the Bible.
Mm-hmm.
I also haven't read the entirety, so
yeah,
I've read up to.
You can skip the genealogical stuff.
That's important.
I wish I did.
Yeah. it gets pretty mind-numbing.
That's important stuff, actually.
Yeah, the only point of the genealogical stuff, as far as I can tell, is the fact that it's just tracing the source of wisdom, essentially, because that's how you would do it. You'd be like that's what the apostles, like the students of the apostles were in the Eastern Orthodox Church specifically. They can trace back who taught them all the way down to one apostle. So if you talk to somebody who's in the East, who is a let's say I forget what they call them, but like an epistle. If you talk to one of them in the Eastern Orthodox Church, they can trace back who taught them all the way down to Paul or John or Peter or any of those guys, because that's the point of it. Is like I didn't just create this wisdom. It comes from this important person who got it from God.
And one day, in the far future, they'll be like, Eli taught me.
Yeah. So I do want to talk quite a lot actually about the idea of an apocalypse. Because clearly this is post-apocalyptic. The way that I took it initially, given like the opening scene, was that it was like nuclear. But then they say stuff like there was a hole in the sky and the sun broke through, which means I assume that the ozone layer was compromised, and that's why the UV ray. Because like in a nuclear apocalypse, the entire world wouldn't be destroyed. It would just be a lot of the civilized world, and the fact that it's a barren wasteland everywhere except for like California, strangely enough, or Alcatraz, that island, which is odd if you're taking it from the perspective of like this is nuclear war. It seems more likely that it seems more likely that nukes did go off, certainly, and enough of them went off that it destroyed the ozone layer, and then a bunch of ultraviolet radiation came in and basically fried everything. And that's why you got to wear shades out, because they're still recovering from that and all that stuff. At least that's the way that I took. That's why there's no water as well. Because in an apocalypse, in a nuclear apocalypse, there would still be water. It would just be radioactive, but there's no water.
Which, I mean,
relatively.
This was my uneducated assumption, but I was thinking, yeah, I mean, it could be nuclear, and it makes sense that California isn't hit as bad, because I would think in a nuclear war that the nukes would, it would come from the east, most likely.
It depends on who's firing.
Yeah, on who's firing, but I'm just thinking if theoretically
the U.S. did Snake's up smash from Smash Brothers, where his up smash, he shoots a mortar straight up and it comes straight back down. That's what the U.S.
That's what the leftists want to do to the U.S. right now.
This is a nuke in someone's backyard and they light it off like a bottle rocket.
Yeah.
and then they go, the Republicans did it!
Yeah, I mean, if it was like China or like Russia firing nukes, then I would assume they'd go across the Pacific, because I think there's less
Notice how
area.
He didn't say North Korea because they're not good at it. Yeah, I'm looking at you, Kim Jong.
Well, no, I was
he's gonna hack us like he did in Sony.
I'm gonna do.
The interview
I'm gonna pull an Iron Man 3. This is my address.
I was just thinking. I mean, the
1432 Malibu Point. That's right, terrorist. Fuck you!
This is the war on terrorism. This podcast right here
is the war on goddamn terrorism. Find me when I'm in my car. That's all I gotta say.
I was only thinking specifically that the East would be nuking because he's traveling west.
Well, Cuba is East, and they had a nuclear missile crisis.
Okay.
Right? They're East, right?
Yeah. Well, I mean...
They're like...
East, they're east to California.
Yeah, well, yeah. Right.
Yeah.
Right.
Well, there is no direction if you don't have a point of origin. Think about that. There is no north unless you're stated somewhere.
But is it established that it's like this worldwide?
I assume so.
Well, see, I don't know, because the opening, I would also assume so, but the opening scene, he's like in like a forest or something, right?
Yeah. Well, he's surrounded by trees. Yeah.
And then the rest of the movie, he's not until he gets to California, which is very strange to me.
Well, I kind of figured that he was like exiting. Like, I don't know exactly where he is, but it seems like he could be exiting, like, I don't know, like Louisiana or something, and then going west towards, like, the deserty areas.
That's just, there's no way that, like...
It's clear that the entirety of the United States, at the very least, has been compromised.
Mostly like this.
Well, you would say almost entirely, because, like, the U.S. has, like, so many, like, military stations that would declare martial law in these areas. You wouldn't have, like, you wouldn't revert back to the 1800s 30 years after that.
Yeah, I don't know. Louisiana is a little far, though. That's like at least 100 miles.
It is a lot. I mean, I'm sure there are forests in
I don't know about that, Kyle. Insert state. I don't know.
Well, I don't know. I mean, it really does depend where he's at. I don't know if he's in Northern California.
I'm sure there's trees in, like, Ohio.
Well, I mean, there are forests in California. I mean, the Redwood Forest is where they shot Endor from Star Wars, like Episode 6.
It's also where the forest is.
Right. What?
Well, you said the Redwoods, like in Star Wars, as if it were not really known. You're like, the Redwoods, like in Star Wars, for those of you who don't know what the Redwoods are.
Yeah, well, yeah, I'm just saying, like, but there are forests in California.
For those of you who didn't know.
So theoretically, he could have already been in California, because he's been walking
I guess that's true.
He's been walking this distance for 30 years.
Yeah.
So it's he could be in California already at the start.
That's what I assumed.
Yeah.
I mean, he
not
from the time he gets ambushed from the start of the movie to him getting there, it's like within a day or two.
Yeah, but anyways, Apocalypse. I think people understand apocalypses incorrectly. Because an apocalypse doesn't necessarily mean the end of the world as you know it. An apocalypse, translated from the Greek term...
REM would disagree.
Well, then they're stupid. But apocalypse, translated from the Greek root word of it, means to unveil. And the point of an apocalypse being written, which specifically apocalypses started to be written in, I believe, like around 400 BC, or excuse me, BCE. There we go. We're good now. But they were starting to be written around then, and they continued up until like the 1st or 2nd century AD, or CE. And basically all it is it's a type of literature.
For those of you who didn't know.
In which the point is that a divine character is unveiling this long-held mystery. And you see this a lot in the Hebrew Bible, or I don't know why I said Hebrew Bible, just the Bible in general. But you see this a lot with Old Testament writings like Daniel, and there are bits of it that are in Isaiah, and a little bit in Ezekiel as well. But specifically Daniel's like the first one that has a lot of apocalyptic language. Joel.
Yeah, you don't even know what Job's about.
Yeah, I don't. So Joel is also like a good apocalyptic work. But then also like the most well-known one is the Book of Revelation. But it's also in Mark and I believe Matthew, the little apocalypse that Jesus talks about, the Sermon on the Mount of Olives. But again, I'll talk about Revelations because everybody's more like familiar with that one in terms of like kind of generally what happens. But the idea is that the entire process that's going on is God unveiling the plan for humanity, and it's not necessarily that in the end of the world this is what it's going to look like
as we know it.
The point of Revelations is to say what's happening now is going to keep happening over and over again, and this is why it grows what is happening under the reign of Domitian in the Roman Empire, around like 100, I believe it's like 90 CE, and it takes what's happening under the Roman Empire and it's saying this persecution, this terrible thing that is happening, I'm going to upscale it to this cosmic imagery of good versus evil, because that is what's happening under all of these rulers. That's what happens under Hitler, under Joseph Stalin, under Trump if you're a Democrat, under Biden if you're a Republican, during the Cold War. It fits to everything, not because the Bible is specifically being like, ooh, this is what's going to happen at the end of the days. It's going to be in 2012 or 2021 or 2022. But it's not that it's specifically saying this is what's going to happen and that it has all this quoted or coded language and stuff. The point is saying this terrible thing that's happening is this continual battle of good versus evil.
Shake it up a little bit.
And that's the point of an apocalypse. I saw you look up quotes from Age of Ultron, and I'm scared because I didn't mention chaos.
You know you didn't.
I didn't.
Anyway, keep talking about Apocalypse.
No, I hit the base kind of now that we hear that, and then everything else.
Now that you've heard the entire
It's funny that you mentioned 2012 because I showed Claire some clips of 2012 earlier because that was my favorite movie when I was in middle school.
Really?
Yeah.
Interesting.
So we're throwing it back to Age of Ultron, baby.
Also, I mentioned prophecy real quick. Revelations is not prophecy. And there's an interesting quote from a Jewish philosopher, Maimonides, who lived around like the 12th century. And he said that prophecy is just understanding people really well. And that's what an apocalypse is. A prophecy is not being able to be like, oh, on this specific day and this specific time, this is going to happen. Prophecy is being able to look at human behavior and abstract
talk for 20 minutes about apocalypses.
And abstract something. It's being able to look at human behavior and abstract something that approximates what is going to happen. And that's why all prophecy is vague, because it fulfills multiple things at multiple times, because prophecy is understanding human behavior really, really well.
Like in Harry Potter. Yeah, they say, what is it, like the end of summer? What is the... It's like at the end of summer, your killer is going to be born, and
it was
Neville and
or
Harry.
Yeah.
But we don't know which one.
Which is another thing that J.K. Rowling got really, really well in that series.
Because it's a prophecy.
Yeah.
Like Kyle said. The reason I'm bringing up Age of Ultron is because chaos and order. They think that's different, but it's the same. Well, as we've stated previously,
that's the only quote I know.
Kyle, you are a human. And Ultron said, or Vision was like, humans.
I don't want to carry this argument over into the next year.
Anyway,
please.
well, it's too late now. Anyway,
next year, Kyle, it's 2022.
Yeah, this year.
Correct.
No, this year.
From last year.
Right.
That's what I'm saying. I didn't want to carry this argument over. Don't let the people know.
But it's an unveiling and sort of like a cleansing, a washing, water, lots of it for at least 40 days and 40 nights. Tends to have the effect of starting again. $10 if you get that reference.
$10 if you understand one of the most well-known stories in the Bible.
I know that one.
Also, it's interesting that you say that because in an apocalypse, right, everything is destroyed and like built anew afterwards, but it's destroyed. It like in the story of Noah, it's destroyed with water because water, specifically the sea, is the ultimate symbol of chaos.
Right.
And so that's and it's like that because of the sea serpent Tiamat, but also like I said in the
why'd you look at me like
I think in the gingerbread episode when we were talking about how they thought that the world was on like these pillars.
Wait.
The gingerbread off thing.
Oh, okay.
But on the like the Earth was on these pillars, and then surrounded by those pillars were this sea water from which chaos came, and that's one of the things that God talks about in Job is that He's destroyed the Leviathan, He's destroyed the Behemoth. These,
like I said,
symbols of ultimate cosmic chaos and power. He's wrestled with those, and the point of Job is being like, who are you to question my will? Who are you? Did you take the Leviathan? Did you take on Behemoth? No, you didn't. You're just a mere person. So you should take what I'm saying as absolute fact because I am God.
And He's a Sith.
And He's a Sith.
And only Sith deal with absolutes.
That's true. Only Sith deal with absolutes.
Subtle.
So go. What were you talking about? That nobody cares about. Claire thought that was funny.
I'm going to cut all of your audio out.
No, I'm editing this.
No, I'm editing it.
No, I am.
Yeah.
I haven't edited one this year.
Yeah.
So,
what year?
22.
22? We're in 2022.
Well, that's what I'm feeling.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, because the Bible
is feeling 22.
Okay. I didn't mean to do that. I'm sorry.
Well, no, but so Apocalypse is, they get rid of everything, right? Essentially, so that the best of us can arise. Now, the worst of us also arise, but because stories, the good always prevails, right? Like in Daredevil, the good will always rise up to meet the evil, and so in evolutionary terms as well. But as far as morality goes, there will always be those that are good, and they'll be better because they've learned what the previous society has done wrong, and they have to choose to be better if they're going to survive and rebuild society, essentially. Mm-hmm. And obviously this film is an example of that because there's this one man with this one Bible who has sworn an oath, essentially, to carry it across the country in his mind and reproduce it. Which, he could easily just not care. He could easily give up and he could live and do whatever he wanted to. But he doesn't choose to. My point in all of this is Ultron and Vision near the end of Age of Ultron. Ultron says to Wanda, it looks like, he goes, Ultron says, the human race will have every opportunity to improve. Quicksilver says, and if they don't, Ultron says, ask Noah. Wanda says, "You're a madman." And then Ultron says, "There are more than a dozen extinction-level events before even the dinosaurs got theirs. When the Earth starts to settle, God throws a stone at it." My reason for bringing that up is, number one, God, right? Like,
He does mention it.
He does mention that, and therefore it's the same movie.
Yeah.
But also, it's I think it's pointing out the fact that, like, this apocalypse isn't the end. It's an opportunity to improve, to be better than we were before. Even though Ultron ultimately wants to kill all the humans because he's butthurt that Daddy didn't choose him.
I think it's also... Sorry. It's also interesting, if I remember correctly, when, like, the scene right after that, when he meets Captain America, he refers to him as God's favorite angel.
Or America's ass.
That's a different
He
movie.
does.
Oh,
he
right.
specifically refers to him as
Yes,
God's
he
favorite
does.
angel. And, the movie, the next, like, Avenger movie right after that is Civil War.
It is.
So...
It is.
I don't know.
Let me think about that for a second.
Okay.
I think going with the idea that, like, there's always something after destruction. I think that's true. I mean, we've seen that in, like, post-war.
Well, I mean,
everything.
even like in Idiocracy, there's, like, no plants, and even after however long, hundreds of years, they put a little bit of water in the earth and flowers start to grow back.
It's because, like, everything has potential in it, and it's like people too, because everybody has all of this potential in them, and the world and more malevolent people, compress that and beat that down. But there is always something, and it's like the best thing that a friend can be for somebody, I think, is somebody who encourages the development of another person, because. Well, it's like I've said before. It's like, imagine just...
Dragons.
No. Imagine how
Get it?
How much better you could be if only you had just a little bit of encouragement from other people and you truly didn't allow yourself to be stopped by your own self-consciousness. And there's really no limiting principle to what you could accomplish and what you could do, but you do need just that you need that initial help from somebody else. That's why you can't be... I'm losing the word I'm searching for here, but that's why you can't do everything by yourself. Because you do need others, and that's the best part about like civilization too, is that it cultivates that out of you.
Which I think is why Eli and his book are pretty mythological, because he doesn't have that at all. Mm-hmm. As a matter of fact, he has the exact opposite. And the only person that does somewhat push him forward is Mila Kunis. Yeah. But even then, it's not. It's a out of curiosity for what he has, not his purpose.
Well, I mean, but he also has, like, a divine purpose,
right? And that's what I'm saying.
Which is I think is different from the vast majority of people on this planet. I don't think most people have what they feel is a truly God talked to me. And I heard him as if he was sitting right there, and I heard his voice tell me what to do, and then I went and did it. I think that would be different, because if you did hear that, who the hell are you to refuse that? Mm-hmm. Seriously, like if you heard God's voice tell you, I need you to go do this thing that seems impossible, like who are you to say no? I can't do that. But I like I said, I think for the vast majority of people, you don't have that. You may feel like a divine inkling of inspiration, perhaps, or even revelation, maybe. I mean, I think a lot of people have that, but it's not the same as, like, hearing the voice of God like Moses or something like that.
Yeah. I mean, people of faith and who would say that they don't have any religious belief. Oh, sorry. People who, like, do have faith, and even those who would say that they don't have religious beliefs, there are times where, in any part of anybody's lives, you would see a sign or something that kind of tells you something. I have more of a point there, but I lost it.
Yeah. No, I got what you're saying, though.
Here, let me help you.
With this...
Let's see this. Found it.
Because he had a point. Yeah. Funny.
Yeah.
I mean, with this, I feel like it is saying that Eli is actually hearing from God because of, I mean, a lot of the things that he says. He says outright that he, like when the shootout in the house, she's like, what did he say? And then he said, you and I will make it. He said, you and I will both make it out of this. And she's like, what about the other people? Didn't say anything about them.
Yeah.
But
no, I agree. Okay, we have a lot to talk about, and we are running way over time here.
Yeah.
All right, so the idea of religion in general, the bad guy using the book, he's like, it helps. Wait, I have like a specific bit here that I wrote. But he was like, imagine how this isn't an exact quote, but he was like, imagine how righteous this world would be and how people would understand their purpose if they had that book. It's a weapon aimed at the hearts and the minds of the weak and the desperate. He defines the word of God, the Logos, as a weapon to be used for subjugation. And that's what's so interesting is because obviously, like, Eli, when he's first asked, hey, give over the book, Eli's like, no, I have a better place to bring it, and you would just use it for ill-gotten gains. And that's exactly true, because and that's why I think there's this interesting relation between the Word of God and power, because it's like it's very interesting because you have something that's inspired by God, and maybe even the exact Word of God. Let's even say that it is the exact words of God, and they are holy and they are meant to bring freedom and peace to everybody, and a set of moral guiding principles in which everybody can live co-harmoniously. And yet, you can still use that to destroy. Mm. That's really fascinating. Because...
Moral. Sorry.
I hate...
he's watched it, so he can bat me up.
But, and that's the problem that a lot of people have with religion in general.
Does that bother you?
Well, I just take it up. But that's what a lot of people have with... that's a lot of the issues that people have with religion in general, and specifically in fundamentalist households, where it's very oppressive in its nature. It's like... It's so absurd to me that you can read something like a biblical text and get out of that you should force people to abide by those tenets. And the thing is that...
How does this relate to the movie?
This is literally what the bad guy's plan is.
Okay.
You absolute dumbass.
Well, I felt like a tangent was coming on. So.
Well, I was trying
to
understand this idea myself, and I was trying to talk it out, but clearly Jake has other plans in mind. So.
Yes.
Mm-hmm.
It makes me feel
that word that you said. How does that relate to the movie?
Because
how does that relate to the movie?
I'm about to tell you.
Okay. Oh, that's interesting because you were about to tell me something, but I cut you off to ask how it related, but you hadn't gotten through your point yet.
There's been a lot of tension in this episode, and we broke bread at the beginning, which proves that God's not real. Continue with that, since now I'm the most hated person on the podcast. Target's on me.
I called her Meg Griffin in my notes.
Meg Griffin?
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
I couldn't remember her name. Meg, yeah. But, so, long story short, what I was eventually going to be getting to is the idea that you can't create your own morals from nothing. In fact, Nietzsche, Friedrich Nietzsche. Why did I say that? Friedrich Nietzsche.
I found my niche.
Yeah. Friedrich Nietzsche in the 19th century wrote explicitly about this when he said, God's not dead. Everybody and their mom who's atheist is like, yeah, that's my shit.
Bad movie.
Don't bring... Yeah, I knew you were going to say that. But yeah, Nietzsche is like, yeah, God's not dead. But nobody focuses on the later half of that sentence or that thought. It's like, God's not dead and we killed him.
And we killed him.
Yeah. I've said this before on the podcast, haven't I? Okay. So, but the point that he was making throughout that bit is that... damn it. I hate that I refer to it as that. The point that he was making throughout that is that because we devise, we've essentially killed him because we think that we don't need some sort of higher power that gives us our limiting principles. Because you can't construct that from nothing. Because when you do, you get communism and you get Marxism. And specifically, Friedrich Nietzsche said tens of millions of people will die when these systems are implemented.
When you kill God, you get communism.
Well, yes, essentially. Yeah. Because, again, it was what happens when you try to devise your own morals absent of the wisdom of the past. And when you do that, people die and people suffer. Because, some things are tried and true. And I think it's there's an old adage, I can't remember who said this, and this is, you guys are going to want me to shut up as soon as I start this, but let's say you're alone in a field and there's there's just a small fence, and it doesn't stop anything, it's just a small fence, it's just in the middle of the field for no reason. A conservative comes up and he looks at that and he says, I don't know why this fence is here. I'm going to find out before I tear it down. And a person on the left comes down and says, I don't understand the point of this. I'm tearing it down.
And then a person from Resident Evil 2 says, oh, this fence is no higher than my titties. I need to backtrack and find a key to it.
That's funny.
Instead of jumping over it.
Right. But the point being is that, like, you have to understand that there is wisdom in the past. And it's not that the past is always great and always grand and always moral. It's that you learn from it, and you don't just use that as a word like, oh yeah, if you're doomed to repeat history, blah blah blah. I fucking hate that, because anything that's turned into just a turn of phrase loses all of its meaning. Because really, if you think about that, you go, yeah, you should understand history so that way you don't repeat it. Then why the hell are you trying to repeat it?
Name all the history.
Name all the history. Go ahead, I'll wait. Yeah, damn it. He got there before me. But seriously, you have to understand what has happened in the past, and not just understand it, but understand why it happened. And once you understand why it happened, then maybe you can think about, how can I make things better? Instead of devising some stupid strategy off of your own incompetence, who the hell are you?
I'm Jake.
I don't know, but... And it's not that you don't have, like, moral sympathies, but they do need to be cultivated. Because constructing your own morals that are not based in something of revelation fall apart because they either fall short of interpreted actions or lack a force from above that keeps you within bounds. And that's kind of in the story of Moses as well. The idea that when they're going through the wilderness for 40 years... Moses is kind of judging over all of the specific issues that the Israelites have as they're going through the desert, and he's doing so much that I think it's his brother-in-law. It's somebody who's related to him is like, hey, you're doing this way too much. You gotta calm down. You've got to give off some power to some other people because you're taking on too much. And over the course of this 40 years, then it's like this inspiration hits them. It's this revelation from on high, and it's the Ten Commandments. It's these rules that he's abstracted from the set of these common issues that are amongst everybody. And that is revelation in a sense. And that's... I have so much to say about this, and I hate it because I feel like we're going to go over a lot more. But I think that's... The point that I'm trying to make is that you can't formulate your own values based on nothing. And when you turn the values from other systems on their head, what do you expect to get but the complete opposite of what they aspire to bring about?
And that's what this movie's about?
Yes.
Yes.
Okay. All right.
Sorry, Jake doesn't listen whenever I talk. Yeah. He says, I'd rather just interrupt.
All right, boys.
Merry Christmas.
Merry Christmas.
For 22.
Yeah. We're giving our present in advance, which is bickering.
Anyway, so yeah.
Which reminds me of a quote. You argue and you bicker and you fight. Atheists and Catholics, Jews and Hindus argue day and night over what they think is true, but no one entertains the thought that maybe God does not believe in you.
What's that from?
Bo Burnham.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Figures.
From what?
from back when he was actually funny. He's still a mastermind. He's still a mastermind.
Mastermind's usually evil.
Yeah.
It's not evil.
Inside was a masterpiece, and it was funny, but it was depressing, which makes sense because he was depressed. But this was back when he was more funny than depressed. He hit it more, and that's what you should do as an entertainer. All right.
That's what we do, baby. Yeah.
I'm kidding, Bo. I love you. All right.
I'm sure he listens. I'm sure he's one of the favorite people.
I'm sure he loves that I just refer to him on a first name basis.
We have disbanded the Ready or Not scale because it's.
We have?
Yes.
Yeah.
And we will replace it soon with something.
With the Belko experiment scale.
Once I understand what the hell that is.
It'll be replaced. All right.
So instead, I'm going to give this movie a rating out of 10. I'm going to hit it with a 6.
There were explosions. Sorry. Actually, no, sorry. Continue.
I'm going to hit it probably with a 6 out of 10. This movie was okay.
I would say 7 out of 10, also because 7 is a holy number.
Like, how much I enjoyed it, or how much I think it's a good movie? Or how much is objectively or subjectively?
Both. I think you can
overall.
I think you can take both of those into account. I think it was written fine. I think it was too on the nose at some points.
Is 5 the average of the movie, or is 5 is average and 10 is far exceptional and 0 is the worst thing I've ever seen? Correct? That's our scale.
Yes.
Okay. Then 7.5.
Okay.
Okay.
I'll go 7.5.
Now we understand our scaling.
Yeah. Now we're doing a normal scale.
You guys, you mentioned it earlier about the color grading. I honestly love the color grading.
You notice they had green in the clouds?
Yeah.
Oh, that was kinda neat.
I don't know.
I like the hue of the clouds.
It made things hard to see for me.
Well,
Yes.
that's why. Yeah, it put you in the perspective of everybody else. But I like how when it's
have
outside.
sunglasses on.
Yeah.
When it's outside, it's like it's very desaturated, and then inside there's color. But then when he finally makes it to Los Angeles, San Francisco, it's popping with color.
Yeah.
It's very warm.
Good shit.
Poppin'.
Good color story.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Don't give me that bullshit line. I'm looking at you.
Anyway.
Bum bum.
No. Okay. Can you guys give me somewhat of a choir beat? Somewhat of a like a Sunday morning worship type beat.
Do 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 do
Good. I'm trying to find the beat. Denzel Washington traveled from Washington to San Francisco with Mila Kunis. He survived an attack to bring God back. He was blind, but now he's dead.
Oh, that was it?
Yeah. I have to take a shit in Jake's bathroom on his wall. I'm gonna smear it everywhere, and I'll shit in his underwear, cause he interrupts me way too fucking much. Fuck you, Jake.
Yeah, you know what's crazy?
What?
Is most of those interruptions in the beginning were not actually me.
I know. I just had to take
Stout and sauerkraut, bitches.
Stout and sauerkraut.
Down sauerkraut, we like each other. It's okay.
It is. We're not going to get a divorce. We promise this time.
Bye.
At least that's what they think.
Huh, religion and divorce. My chocolate.
Look at that.
All right.